You're listening to the Paranormal Is My Normal podcast. We are a bit science, a bit woo, and all curious about that which defies explanation because sometimes normal just isn't.
Welcome back. Tonight, we're taking you inside the Thurber House in Columbus, Ohio, home to one of America's greatest humorists and possibly a few lingering house guests. We'll be joined by Leah Wharton, the operations director, who walks us through the history of the land, the house, and the eerie legacy left behind by James Thurber himself. Then we'll take you inside our investigation, where we ran a full EVP session and came up empty. But as always, sometimes silence is just as revealing. So we'll wrap tonight with a fireside-style chat between Mike and me about what being active really means in the world of paranormal investigations. Let's begin.
I'm Leah Wharton. I'm the operations director at Thurber House. I've been here for 8 years and I do a little bit of everything. We're a small team. We each do a little bit of everything, but especially my position. So kind of in a nutshell, history of Thurber House. So back in the 1800s, the land that Thurber House currently sits on used to be home to the Ohio Lunatic Asylum. It burned down in 1868 and killed 7 women, tragically. And then 5 years later, this house was built. So 1873, the house itself was built. A couple years before the Thurber family moved in, so in the very early 1900s, a man named Thomas Tracy Truss lived here. He was a prominent jeweler in Columbus. He was upstairs in one of the bedrooms getting ready for supper one evening, and there were a couple of people in the room, including his wife. He had a gun sitting there on his dresser that he owned, and he picked it up and kind of started playing around with it, pointed at his wife. His wife said, "Don't point that at me. That's a dangerous thing to be doing." And he said, "Well, don't worry, honey. It's not loaded. I don't keep it loaded." And to prove his point, he pointed the gun at his chest and pulled the trigger. It did happen to be loaded. So he accidentally shot and killed himself in one of the upstairs bedrooms here. And then a few years after that, the Thurber family moved in. 1913 to 1917 is when James Thurber lived here with his parents, his 2 brothers, all of their dogs. And during the time that they lived here, so in 1915, November 17th, 1915 to be exact, James Thurber reported experiencing a ghost in the house. So he wrote a famous short story, The Night the Ghost Got In, about this incident. And the thing with Thurber is that a lot of his stories, especially in his book, My Life in Hard Times, which the story is located in that book, he kind of starts out with a historic, realistic event, a real event from his life, and then he exaggerates it. So you never know 100% what he is making up and what's actually true. So we just kind of have to go by what the story says and then later interviews that he did. So the story essentially states that he was upstairs at 1:15 in the morning taking a bath in the second floor bathroom for whatever reason, and got out of the bathtub and was standing at the top of the back stairs, drying himself off. And all of a sudden he heard the sound of footsteps going around the dining room table in the room below. He kind of peered down, didn't see anything, got his brother to come, and they both are standing there at the top of the stairs thinking, "Oh my gosh, is there a burglar in the house? What's going on?" And all of a sudden, according to Thurber, the footsteps started running up the back stairs by themselves, and obviously freaked the 2 boys out. They ran away, slammed the doors. That woke their mother up, who came out and, started ranting about, "Oh, there's a burglar in the house." And they didn't want to tell her, "Well, actually, we think it's a ghost." So they just kind of let her think it was a burglar. And then the story kind of goes on and on. But in a nutshell, James Thurber's mother was a character. So instead of calling the police, she decided she was going to take off her shoe, walk into one of the rooms and throw it through the window into the neighbor's house to ask them to call the police. And a bunch of chaos ensued, and all of that good stuff makes for a great story. But Thurber, he was asked about this incident later in life. There are interviews of him talking about it. I think there's a letter somewhere too. And he believed to his dying day that what he experienced here in 1915 was unexplained and that it was a ghost. He actually changed the address of the house in his future writings so he wouldn't scare anyone who was living here at the time.
So it really was a concern. And I like how he would rather his mother think that they were in imminent peril with a burglar in the house versus a ghost. That's the choice he made. We'll just let her believe it's a burglar. That's better than thinking it's a ghost.
Yeah, she is a character though. Who knows? But that's how the story goes. So,
Okay.
and of course, now we're a literary arts organization, so we've been around for 40 years, and we used to pre-COVID, we did a couple of writer residencies a year. So the authors would stay here up in our third floor attic apartment for a month at a time, and so a lot of the stories of unexplained activity come from them, as well as staff and volunteers and groups who come in and do private investigations like you. All kinds of different things have been reported.
I can imagine you've heard quite a few stories from people here. I love that they're building on the legacy of what Thurber left behind, and as well as the legacy of the paranormal side of what he left behind here.
Thank you.
After hearing about the history and alleged hauntings from staff, we settled into our usual rhythm. We baselined the space, we noted environmental readings, and ran a focused EVP session. You're about to hear the raw audio from one of our sessions on the second floor of the house.
Did you like that?
Were you the spirit running around the table and up the stairs scaring everyone?
Were you the spirit running down the stairs to see who was running around the table?
What number comes after 3?
What's your favorite ice cream?
Was it funny hearing how everyone was so disturbed that evening?
Do you like writing short stories?
Nothing. No voices, no whispers, no phantom footsteps on the stairs. But that doesn't mean nothing happened. Later that night, Mike and I sat down to reflect. Because if there's one thing that's evolved in our time investigating, it's how we define what it means for a place to be active. So, we were at Collingwood last week and we were talking about how we were just feeling kind of like, oh, it's sort of neutral, it's sort of light and airy.
Yeah.
We didn't really feel anything heavy or drawn to certain things.
We wanted to go here, we wanted to go there, but we ended up in the auditorium, and I don't know, we just felt light in the area until the very, very end.
Yeah.
Where it felt like we were like hit with a
Static wall.
static of, a wall of cold air, and we just walked through it. I felt that was kind of odd, and it just so happened at the very end of the night.
Well, it made me wonder, given the experiences we've had this year, Post Town twice, Star City Brewery twice, we've gone to Collingwood, we've gone to now Thurber House, where we're currently recording this. It made me wonder when people say, oh my gosh, it's so active tonight. Oh my gosh, there's so much activity. What does that mean? Like if I was to say, holy cow, Mike, Thurber House tonight is just full of activity. What does that mean to you? Like, what would you expect that to look like?
Probably around this time of night, I would be expecting maybe 1 or 2 EVPs.
Okay, so something like that.
A lot, maybe, and you would have the same amount. Okay,
Mhm.
that'd be very active.
Because I was thinking about
Some people go to some places and it's like, oh yeah, you hear that? oh yeah, do you hear that? Oh my God. Oh yeah, this place is like incredibly, but then when, you and I are going through, I guess we're, how we're, um, uh, going like a scientific way. Let's analyze this. Let's analyze that.
Well, to that point, what we don't use are spirit boxes. We don't do Estes. We
No.
don't use, I mean, yeah, we have our chattergeist, but, I think.
I don't use this as like, oh yeah, it's Saint Soviet. Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's
Yeah.
Is there a Russian in here or something like that? No, it's not like that. I take it with a grain of salt, and
Yeah, it's a layer, it's a context.
and so I don't take that with a grain of salt, but
Well, I do wonder though, when people say at places they had so much activity tonight, when people start talking about their activity, it's very subjective activity.
very subjective.
Right. And I think that's the difference, that if we had out REM pods going off and that, like that, I would. So for me, when I hear a lot of activity, I think corroborating gear, i.e., REM pads went off, but also static sensors went off.
Yeah.
Right. To validate or to keep it accountable.
Yeah.
We had very intelligent responses in an EVP session.
Yes.
Those type of things. But then I start thinking about what more and more people have. And when they leave feeling really satisfied for the night, I really think it's like spirit box. It's those type of things, the ghost talker.
Yes.
It's, those type of apps that I think is what people feel like, oh my gosh, we got so much context. We had so much interaction. And it's like, yeah, we don't really talk about that, what it really means to be active.
Right. I feel, and here we go. A place that that was really active was the very first time we were at Eloise.
Yeah.
Here we are on the 5th floor. You get touched. We see the full body nurse on the 3rd floor.
That whole night from start to finish was constant activity, literally, and different things.
Yes.
But again, going back through what happened on all the different floors, what did we have? We had a portal on one of the floors, like the spirit box portal, not like a portal to the other world.
Right.
So on one floor we did a portal session, and that was just holy cow.
Yeah.
That was so amazing. Then we did flashlights on another floor, and those went on and off.
Yeah.
And then we did, this on the other floor and that on the other floor. And then at the end of it, we saw so many shadow figures. So looking back over that, even a lot of that was subjective, with the exception of the apparition we saw nurse. You and I together, that we didn't tell each other about for a solid 10 minutes because we both were processing what had just happened. What does this say, Mike?
Mike.
Your name just came up on the chatter, guys.
No.
That's funny. But then the touch, that's not subjective. That's a true actually thing that happened that I felt. It wasn't like I think I heard this. I think I heard that.
Right.
So yeah, it's just, so when we take those things away, and it's just bare bones, you and I sitting in a space, audio recorders, listening for EVPs. Is it because we don't have the other things going on that we're like, oh, it's not really active? Right. If we were doing an Estes session, we did have our portal with us, and would we sit there and all of a sudden be like, oh, more activity? Because now we're getting maybe what we feel is more interaction.
Like, some of the interactions that we've had was, the very first time we were at the Bomb Theater, the time at the Emory Theater, the theater out in Indiana, was just a little bit of.
I forgot about that.
We're sitting, kind of far back, and we see the figures going in between the sets on the stage.
Well, also, we just turned on the recorder and we were doing an EVP session at the top of the seating area. And remember, we got a little boy's voice at the start. So that's like an EVP. So that was like, holy cow. Yeah. And I just got thinking about that. Like, the more we go out, because we have simplified, we don't really bring out music boxes and REM pods and all that yet, until we have like the C or static meter and things like that to keep it accountable. It's just like, because we're really relying on our bodies, our true experiences, and then the less subjective things, which you can even argue EVPs are subjective. What do you hear it say? Right? But at the end of the day, you can analyze that.
But it's true. Yes, you can. But in some cases, it's just, hey, is there anything you want to tell us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, there's no, you can't deny that. I mean, that is insane.
Clear.
Even doctors remove the patient. No. I mean, That not really subjective. I mean, that's like that's almost like evidence right there. That's proof.
Yeah.
That
And when you
there is
don't
something
tell
there.
people and you have them listen and they say the exact thing, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. You know, they're hearing the same thing
Right.
when we don't tell them what to listen for.
Right.
And then if they're saying, holy cow, it just said get out of here. It's like, okay, they heard the exact same thing. So it's like not a pareidolia where
Right.
our brains are making it up, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just something I wanted to talk about because I feel like sometimes we think activity and I don't want to go back to the floating bed sheet, but it's like, oh, how much of it, once you start getting rid of the flashy gear, does it detract or,
The flashy gear can be nice, but then, it's almost as if there's like a time and place for it.
yeah.
If you're going to be going to someplace like, say, Ohio State Reformatory, I think the flashy gear would be optimal to use there
Because
because
there's so much space.
not only there's so much space, but you can also set it up and walk away and go somewhere else to investigate. Here in the Thurber House, not so much because of the fancy gear will be almost like overpowering the investigation almost.
Yeah, like set up 150 different things when you're just sitting in a small room.
I mean, if you want to do a
Yeah.
multiplexer in here, I'd be finding it dandy, but it would kind of take away from the investigation because all you're going to be doing is just staring at the screen.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, like a place like Thurber House, I feel it's more important to exist in the building.
Because I know later on, I would like to do another session with play a poem on on our speaker and then see what kind of reaction we get for that. Or just something that will entertain the spirits. Not so much have them perform for us, but to entertain them to say, hey, these guys are legit. We want
to connect with them.
Yeah, and connect with them.
Played earlier.
The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. And
Night the Ghost Got In by James
James Thurber. So,
because this is the house that he was in when the experience happened for him. So yeah, very interesting. So overall, when I look at like, is tonight an active night? I would say no. We've been doing a lot of EVP work. We've been doing quiet sessions, baselining, walking through. But yeah, experience wise, I think for me, it's even just physically sitting here feeling and existing in the space. I don't really feel a shift.
it feels like, as Jenny would say, but it's light and airy. I mean, I'm still going to do some EVP work in here.
Absolutely.
What's going on?
And at the end of the day, honestly, I think even when we don't catch anything, I never consider it a bad experience.
No, absolutely. Oh, no, absolutely not. Coming into these establishments, it's a treat.
It's an honor. It really is.
Come into here because the Thurber House, they could have said no. They could have no, we don't want ghost hunters in here or ghost and paranormal investigations.
Yeah.
All right, but they let us come in here, and so that is nice. And we appreciate that, and we try to respect that.
And when we think of the Thurber House, I mean, any of these locations, the history is a huge part of it for us. It's not just about, oh my goodness, what are we going to experience?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's really more so about, gosh, we were in this place of living history, the connection to Thurber and what he did, and just, I mean, seeing it a little bit through the eyes of that time is kind of amazing. So at the end of the day, even if it's not an active night, I've honestly never left an investigation regretting that we did the investigation.
No.
Can't think of one that I'm like, oh, I really wish we didn't do that. Active or not active, it's always a good experience.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
And of course, we like it when it's active.
Oh, yeah.
But we know this just from Eloise. We've investigated there, exaggerating, over 100 of times.
A lot.
Not every one of those times was active. And if we just happened to have only gone one time and it was on a day that it wasn't active.
You have like a feeling.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, yeah, that's worth it right there. I mean, if you're walking down one of the patient hallways and you can't walk any farther because you just, everything is like your senses are just going, what in the hell am I feeling right now? You just can't walk down the hallway because you're just, pardon me, but you're just scared shitless because I can't walk any farther, even with like 2 or 3 people holding my hand.
Right.
Can't walk any farther.
So it's those things that we realize that, gosh, lack of activity isn't upsetting. We just know through experience that you have to be exposed to a place maybe multiple times before you actually get something. And that could be the building revealing itself to you. That could just be the way the world works. We always say you can't make a location perform.
Right.
So it's just like it's always a gamble if there'll be anything, but it never personally does not detract me from returning
No, it
and
doesn't.
continuing back. For me, the question if we go back to places is really not so much based on that momentary activity. It's more so the pattern of activity, meaning, do we feel like we've investigated everything we personally wanted to get out of that location? At that point, it's like, all right, maybe we don't go back as much. But I would say like locations like Ohio State Reformatory, OSR definitely have not hit that threshold.
That's so big.
It's so big and it's so vast and it's so, there's still, after all these times, places in that building you and I haven't even stepped foot in. I mean, that's remarkable. So yeah, I just wanted to have a quick chat about, gosh, what does it really mean to be active? And does it deter us if we feel a location
It's not really
active that night? We just adapt a little, right? Try different things, mix it up a little. And funny thing, right? When we were leaving Collingwood, we're like, okay, it wasn't a very active night, but wow, so cool being in the building. And then we have
the
experience as we're leaving.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you never know. You never know what's going to happen. So whether it's intelligent voices on tape or the simple feeling of stillness in an attic that once held stories and sleep, every place leaves something behind. Some nights it's a whisper, other nights it's a wall of cold air that stops you in your tracks. And sometimes it's just the echo of a poem or memory drifting between the floorboards. So, was it an active night at Thurber House? Not by some standards. But for us, we walked away with something even rarer. A chance to exist in a space that shaped a literary legend, to walk the same halls and to ask the same questions he once did. Ghosts or not, that's worth the visit. Thanks to Leah and the team at Thurber House for opening their doors and sharing their story. And as always, thank you for joining us here on Para Is My Normal. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review, share it with your weirdest friends, and remember, even on quiet nights, you're never truly alone.